morning, everybody. Welcome to worship. I'm sad that we're not all in the same room. I always love worshiping with you guys. You always inspire me. I love to see your energy, to see the way that you pour out your hearts to the Lord. Well, a little different this year, all things considered, but here we are still. There's a lot that's changed around us, but there's plenty that stayed exactly the same. We still have a good God. He's still reigning over all things and still works all things together for our good. He's still actively at work remaking the world. And so no matter how you come into this morning, you might just barely be hanging on, or you might still be overflowing. Either way, let's bring the Lord what He's deserving of, our praise. It's good for us to give thanks to the Lord. That's Psalm 92. Sing praise to your name. Declare your loving kindness in the morning. Here we are. And your faithfulness in the night. I want to teach you this song. Grace poured out from the heart of God for the world He loved. He sent His Son. Heaven's King humbly came for us. Made a way for us. There's no greater love. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, and all honor is yours. Blood poured out from the sinless one there upon the cross. Forgiveness flowed, freedom found in His sacrifice. We are made alive forevermore. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor is yours. Your praise will sound from shore to shore till suns will rise and said no more. Your praise will sound from shore to shore till suns will rise and said no more. Your praise will sound from shore to shore till suns will rise and said no more. Your praise will sound from shore to shore till suns will rise and said no more. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory. Tell 'em. All honor. Hallelujah. You are worthy to receive all glory, all honor is yours. All glory, all honor is yours. All glory, all honor, all power, all wisdom, all thanks, all blessing, all praise be unto your name forever. All honor is yours.
Hey guys, welcome to our prayer breakfast. Unfortunately, we are virtual again. And Zoom has become a new word like Xerox, or like that means copy, and Coke means any kind of soft drink. Zoom just means you're on the screen together. So we're so glad to be with you. And for those of you that are here for the first time, you will see my new friend, Heather, on the screen. We're going to have a great time today. But Heather, I'm going to give them a little history of the prayer breakfast just for those that are first timers so they'll know. But normally we've got 3,000 people in a ballroom and we're worshiping and sharing a meal together, and it's absolutely amazing. But this is the third or fourth time in a row we've had to be virtual because, as you'll hear Heather and I talk about this morning, we are in a crazy place today. And we want to bring some just laughter and joy to your life. But hopefully this will be the last prayer breakfast that's virtual. And hopefully you're with your friends. You can hug somebody and just enjoy this together. But I'm going to open us up in a word of prayer because it is a prayer breakfast. And then we'll just dive in because we want God to be right here with us. Actually, we know we're in his presence. We can't bring God into our presence. We are in his presence. So let's pray for just a minute. Father, we thank you for today. Thanks for Heather. Thanks for all the people that are joining us around the country and really around the world. And we just ask that one of the things that I just want to acknowledge every day is to know that you're the creator and we're the created, and we get to live in your amazing world, Lord. So we ask that you would guide us and lead us and just bring some laughter and joy into each of our lives today. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. So, Heather, I'm glad you're here today. Are you glad to be here?
Thank you, sir. I am so glad to be joining you guys. You know, for me personally, it's way less intimidating this way. A ballroom is great, and we do need community, but I'll just be honest with you. I'm sitting here in a cashmere sweater and pajama pants, and I'm not mad about that this morning. So I'm glad to be joining you virtually today.
Well, that's awesome. I think most of the world is trying to decide if they ever want to get out of their pajamas again. So we're all in a good place together.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. So I've learned a lot about you as we've kind of become friends virtually. We haven't got to meet. I know we will one day because God wants us to meet each other because I think we have kindred spirits. But as we're in this place of this crazy world, and I know you're on the phone talking to a lot of people like I am every day, I wouldn't call it a depression, but it's almost like a global status that we're in. I mean, it's just kind of a weird place. And one of the things I think that people need to hear today is that we know God is in charge, and that's a good thing. So when we see all these problems, we got a bigger God than the problems we're facing. And you actually started out as a worship leader.
I did.
You did, and singing and praising. And how in the world, I mean, I think about this worship leader leading these hallelujah, just these staunch, churchiness kind of religiosity. Right. How did you go from that to being a comedian? Did you just wake up and say, hey, I'm funny?
Never once. Absolutely not. I did not wake up and say that. I mean, I was a worship leader for 20 years, and it was a non-denominational setting. So, a little bit more moving and shaking, but still, very different than comedy. And then I went through a divorce actually after 15 years of being married, and I was in ministry, and I had to really shift gears. And I was in Colorado at the time and ended up moving back home to a little hometown in Tennessee of about 8,000 people, where everybody knew my business before I did. And actually at 40 years old, moved in with my parents for a hot second. And I don't suggest that. If you want to know the truth, you should never move in with my parents. It was quite an experience, but me and my kids, we headed back to Tennessee, and I had to get a big girl job. So I worked in administration for a buddy of mine for a couple of years. And in the meantime, my son had shown me Snapchat. So Snapchat was just starting to be hot, and so I found the ugliest filter on there I could find. And me and my girlfriends started making videos and sending them back and forth. And they kept begging me to put them on social media. And, I just said, look, I'm single and I don't want to stay that way forever. But if I put these videos up, there's no way I'm getting a date, So I said I ain't doing it for a long time. And then finally on a dare, because I guess I'm a, immature 40-year-old woman, but I finally put up my first video on social media. And the truth is, I didn't even know that I said I ain't doing it in that video, but people started pointing that out, asking for more videos. So I started making more because, you know, we live in the South and there's material on every corner. So I made more videos, and long story short, started a fan page because somebody that had a following was about to share my video. And so I started a fan page on a Wednesday morning at work. When I went to church that night, there were 750 followers. And when I got home that night, there were 100,000. And a month to the day, there were 1 million. Now we're at 2.8 million. But people started messaging me. I had to hire my my homeschool cousins. They homeschool their kids. I had to hire them to answer all my messages. And they kept saying, look, people think you're a comedian and they want you to come to all their events. And I said, well, I'm not a comedian. And one of them said, well, you are. You just don't get paid for it. Do you want to see about it? Yeah. And so, man, I just really took a leap of faith. I quit my job, went on the road and figured this thing out. Still figuring it out, you know, the comedy world, but I cannot imagine doing anything else. I often think, man, I was just on the brink of not doing it. What if I wouldn't have, you know? And so, yeah, it's been a great ride. I'm still on it. And so far, so good.
Well, you know, that's so cool because I've always been a person that's loved trying to find out what your purpose is, for everybody to find your purpose. And then, because God calls us to do unique things with the talents and skills he gives us. So it's got to feel good to feel like you're in your calling. That's got to feel good.
It does. It more than anything, it feels good to know that I didn't create this. You know, I literally tried to say no, and God just kept putting it in front of me and in my face to the point that I really couldn't deny it. And that feels good, being able to trust that, you know, this is something that was presented to me, and I kind of stepped into it. Yeah, it feels good making people laugh, you know, especially in this day and time.
No, laughter is so needed. You know, a lot of our partners that are out there, they're moms, and they jumped in the door kind of like you did. You just did a video, but you just made a video, but they kind of jumped in. They wanted to get their family and their kids healthy. And all of a sudden they felt like, oh, I've got a calling to get other families healthy. And they jump in and they dove in and they kind of did that. But they're all dealing with like kids at home and homeschooling. And some of them probably homeschooled last year where they never thought they would ever homeschool. Do you still homeschool your kids? I know you said you did at one point.
I do not. I am a horrific homeschool mom. I will admit that. I want to be a perfect homeschool mom, and I want my kids to be the perfect homeschool children. It's a nightmare in our house. Okay. I have homeschooled at numerous times throughout my life, and there have been parts of it that I thoroughly enjoyed. But right now, the thought of homeschooling, you know, a 15-year-old ninth grader makes me want to go to sleep and never wake up. I mean, I applaud all of you parents out there who are making it work. I think you're the most wonderful human beings on the planet.
Are there some things you would say I ain't going to do when it comes to homeschooling?
You better believe it. I ain't homeschooling. That's the biggest one. Yeah, I ain't listening to your smart mouth. My kids love, there's something about doing school at home that just brings out the attitude. And I have a very short bandwidth for attitude. So definitely, we ain't doing that in this house.
So you've made all these hundreds of I ain't doing it videos. And I guess with like my son was the mascot for the University of Georgia, and he was Harry Dog. And when he put on that helmet and that costume, all of his things that he would hold back on and hesitancies just went away because nobody could see him. Nobody knew what he was doing. You probably feel that way when you put that mask or that persona on. All these videos you make are so funny. How do you come up with all these hysterical ideas?
Well, once again, you know, in the South, it's you don't have to reach very far to find material. You can go to Walmart and, you know, you have a litany of videos right there in front of you. But what you said is absolutely correct. You know, this is very opposing to what people think, but I'm actually a 2 on the Enneagram, which is the helper. I'm very tenderhearted and very sensitive, and people don't realize that because I'm behind a filter. But the truth is that filter, while that is definitely a side of me, and it is very easy, you know, to dig for. It's just right there, you know, ready to come out, that sarcasm. I would very rarely say any of the things I say on a video to an actual human being. But that's kind of what we do, right? You know, yeah. I'm able to kind of hide behind it, say what we want, but not, you know, not be too personal with anybody. Same as your son, right? You're hidden. Nobody knows who you are. So of course that's not really my case, but nevertheless, yeah, there is something to kind of standing behind that filter that allows a little freedom.
You know, what's really funny to me is prior to COVID, I think we knew social media was coming, the live videos were working, but we'd not yet been forced into that world until COVID. So all these people that were hesitant to get on video, I would just, hey guys, you know, you're going to go to Starbucks and sit down across the table with a cup of coffee from somebody and they staring you right in the face, but you're scared and don't like what you look like on video. It really is what you look like. You just got to get over it. You know, you just got to go do it. You know?
Yes, it's a tragic realization for all of us.
It is.
Know, every time I do these, I get ready, I stand in the mirror, and then I turn this thing on, and I'm like, that's not what I thought I looked like a minute ago. It's very disheartening. But, you know, I think we're at a time where nobody really cares. You know, like it's the age of elastic pants right now. You know, I think there's grace for our outward appearance these days.
And during COVID, I think people either went extremely in one direction or the other. Either they just decided it was the elastic pants world and they were going to eat their life away in their pajamas, or everybody else said, well, I can't do anything else. I'm going to get outside and exercise. There's no in between. You know, you either grew or you shrunk. Nobody stayed the same.
Right. And you know what? I sadly did not make the better choice of those two, like a lot of us. And now I'm looking back going, I've just really physically wasted the past year and a half, but yet, you know what, here we are.
I hear you. So how did you spend your time during quarantine? I mean, everybody's kind of got a COVID story. What did your last 18 months look like?
You know, the first month was like super exciting. I'm just going, oh, you know, it was tragic and it was tragic, hard stop. But at the same time, you know, for the rest of us in our little cocoons, we're out of school, we're out of work, we don't know what's coming. It's kind of, you know, it's new and exciting. It's kind of like, you know, when you start dating somebody new, you don't know what's coming. But then after a while, reality sets in and you go, okay, I mean, is this what we're going to do? I guess it is. We watched a lot of Netflix in our home.
Ozark, Tiger King, some of those.
Lots of Tiger King, you know, even the bonus episode, I've never claimed to be, you know, an intellect. So if you watch Tiger King, you're in my company here. We were some of those basic people who started baking bread from scratch. You know, that was a big deal. Of course, I made a ton of COVID videos that kept me busy, but, you know, just like a lot of people, my job stopped. I mean, I make a living being on the road and doing stand up, and I'm just now getting back on the road these past couple months. So, you know, I was kind of out of work like everybody else. People have an idea of what they think's going on, you know, in my world, but it's all stopped for me too. So, you know, like a lot of people, I was trying to figure out a way to grind and, you know, pay some bills and keep moving forward, just like most of us, you know.
So I guess kind of off our script a little bit, I have a question for you as we're moving through this. So you were a worship leader and you go into being a comedian. And I think, you know, in today's world, there are very few clean comedians.
Right.
I mean, they're not very many. And so how have you thought about, you know, God being such an important part of your life? How have you thought about using humor, but also being that witness you want to be for the kingdom?
Right. That's a good question. You know, for me, it's about, I just think that a lot of comedians who use an excess of curse words. I mean, I'm not saying it's not funny to people, and, you know, I'm not trying to go there, but I am saying that for me to not curse on the comedic side is, to me, it's funnier if you can find, you know, the punchline in a joke without cursing.
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's a good challenge for me. It makes me feel a little bit more intellectual, I guess. But as far as the faith side of it, I have children. If you want to know the truth, this is really why. I I don't think that the Lord's gonna, disown me if I say a curse word. But from the stage, I have children, and I always want to be a good example for them. And I wanted to create something. It's not really in my nature to stand up and curse on a stage anyway. I would have never done that. But as we've, progressed in this, in the video making and all of that, I really wanted to offer something online where moms wouldn't have to hide when they saw the video come up on their screen, and they could listen to it in front of their children. That's just very important for me. And I think from the feedback I've gotten, it's really important for families out there as well. And I've got kids that come to the show, so I just, always want to make it, I want to kind of ride that line between, just grown up humor. I mean, it's never off color, but grown up humor, but still family friendly. It matters to me.
It does matter, because the reason I ask you that question is, from the day I got in my business, I'm not a comedian. If I try, I would fail. But I mean, I've always wanted to let my business be a vehicle that God could use. Because whether you're a comedian or you're in a business like ours, it puts you in front of people.
Yeah.
And when you're in front of people and you've quote unquote got the mic or whatever, or you're delivering the message, there's responsibility that comes with that.
Absolutely. And I take it seriously. For me, the most important thing is I want to be able to lay down at night and still have my integrity intact, no matter what, trolls on the internet think they know about me or say about me. I know me. And at night, I want to be content with, not only the work I've put out, but the persona that I've put out, the me that people see every day, that matters to me.
It does. In marriage, I think, you talked about kids and the responsibility of marriage. My wife and I just celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's quite a lot of your story recently you went through a season of divorce, which is hard on every family, and you got a new marriage. How did y'all meet? Y'all didn't meet on YouTube or anything, did you?
We did not meet on YouTube. Actually, when I was out there kind of pounding the pavement, trying to figure out comedy, I was doing a lot of shows. We call them one-offs when they're not part of a tour. So I was out there every weekend, 3 or 4 days out of the week doing shows back to back. And I got with a booking agent who said, I'm going to take you on a tour, on your first tour. And I said, okay. And sure enough, in June of 2018, I showed up in the Kroger parking lot and there was a bus. And I said, well, I guess we're going on tour. And, it takes a village to put on a big tour like that, with lights and, all the techie stuff and stage crew. And so part of that crew was my production manager that my booking agent hired. And I met him, and within the first few days, we just kind of knew we were a thing, and we've been together ever since. And wow. He is still a production manager. He produces live events, and he's on the road right now. We landed here, I think, Saturday night. He hit the road Sunday. So he's still in production, but he also is now my road manager and my husband. So it's a nice little blend for us. Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to do stuff together. My wife and I have been in business together since 6 months after we got married. So it's
oh wow, and still and together so long. See, it can work.
But we have offices on separate floors of the house, so we can we can put some space between each other. I guess, a lot of your funnies have to come from traveling, and you've been. I don't know if you've been in 50 states. I've been in 49. You've probably been in a bunch. I got Alaska still left to go. But what have you learned about this country in traveling? Tell us some of your funnies and tell us what this country's revealed to you being on the road.
I am finding this to be interesting, that everywhere I go, people are, the places that I think people are going to be strange or different, they're really so similar. They may have a little bit different accent, because the one I've got is it's hard to repeat. I mean, it's, not everybody can have this, this lovely accent that I have, but even, I just got back from Detroit and the people were amazing. So that's been a really beautiful surprise. We actually really are all human. How about that? But I have had some interesting experiences lately. I, strangely enough, have this obsession with the Mormon culture. I'm just like sister wives. I'm mesmerized by it. I don't want to be one. I'm just kind of mesmerized by it. So I did a couple shows in Utah and did this whole temple, went around to the temples and looked around at all that. I thought that was interesting. And then on to Colorado, where I found out that Boulder, which is the town I was in specifically, embraces public nudity. And I thought, I think I'm going to take a rain check. So what I found in some of these states, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, is it requires a lot of athleticism to be in that part of the world. And I just am a little too lazy for that. I don't want to go hiking in Colorado. You need a level of athleticism for public nudity as well. I'm not really into that. I think I'm just gonna, float on the river here in Tennessee and, eat Oreos. I just feel like this culture better suits me. I don't know how you feel about all that nudity, part being talked about. If you want to cut that out, feel free. But otherwise, that's my experience as of late.
You know what's funny? One of my travels took me through rural Oregon, and there was actually a pastor that went up there and started a church in a nudist colony. That was his outreach. The church is thriving now. They're no longer a nudist colony, but that's his way back kind of hippie. Yeah. So he started a church.
I got a question though. Did he preach with clothes on? This is my question. I would love to text me because I'm not going to be able to let it go in my brain. I'm going to have to know.
But that was his unreached people group that he decided to go after. So I don't know.
Very interesting. I've never heard of that. I might have to use that in my set. Who knows?
Yeah, they met outdoors. It was an outdoor church under a natural canopy. But it's kind of. By the time I got there, they were seemed like normal. But the history was very interesting. There are a lot of questions you could ask about that.
Yes, I have them rolling around in my head currently.
Well, I guess just to keep us moving here, you and I are both from the South. I'm a 7th generation native Georgian, and I guess you're however many generations, you're a Southerner too. Yeah, so it don't matter. We're both from the South.
Long way back.
So what do we do different in the South? What do people in the South get wrong? I mean, are we as bad as people say we are?
We are quite the strange little cult, don't you think, Kurt? I mean, we are a unique people group. I think people do have speculation of Southerners, they think whatever, we can't read. That I sound very uneducated. I'm not. I went to college. I didn't graduate, but I did go. So I think there are some misconceptions, that we're all rednecks, that we all, eat Spam and, put our cornbread in our milk, which I used to do. But I think that the South is heavily underestimated. We are really a friendly bunch of folks. And there is a thing called Southern hospitality. I don't think it gets enough credit. I think that, of course, we do have our fake people in the South that'll bless your heart and, snap you in two all in one breath.
And carry you to the store.
And what?
They'll carry you to the store.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do think, on the other hand, that, I live in Nashville and you can't go anywhere without people loving on you and waving at you and talking to you. And that is one thing that I really do love about living here, besides your typical, fireflies and sweet tea. I mean, that's great too, but we're a good bunch of folks down here in the South, wouldn't you say?
I would. And I think it's, there's a little bit that I love about being in the South when you talk about that hospitality. And I think the bless your heart thing, I think a lot of people here in the South, that's their way of just maybe passing on that love that God had for them. You know,
Right.
we're also kind of, the South's kind of known as the Bible Belt. So there's a lot of Bible toting people down here. Some
Yes.
take it to a legalistic extreme, and some use it to bless your heart, you know. And I think that's what a lot of people that are with us today, I think, and the reason I wanted to have you is we've had lots of preachers. We've had Dave Ramsey. We've had lots of teachers. We've had lots of worship leaders. But I think when you think about a comedian and then you think about God and Jesus, I mean, the one of the questions you and I talked about, what was your favorite part of being a comedian? But what's your favorite part about being a comedian and just loving on people through humor? I mean,
that is my favorite part. My favorite part about being on the road is always connecting with people. We usually have meet and greets. So I'm able to actually hug necks and really, you know, kind of briefly get to know the people that are going to be sitting out there in my living room, as I call it, for the show. But that is genuinely my favorite part. You know, a lot of times comedians are just comedians, and that's great. I'm certainly not knocking that. But I have been given the beautiful gift of also being able to tell my story and people connecting to me in that way. You know, I'm a worship leader, and I at heart and in my past life. And so I still do music at most of my shows, unless I'm in a comedy club, but I do music at my shows. And for me, it is just such a genuine way to connect with people. And I think, you know, personally, I have been through some things. I was raised in a very dysfunctional home with, you know, one of my parents is an addict and still is. And I went through a divorce in the middle of working for the church. And there was a lot there. I've remarried, you know, I've got a blended family. And a lot of people have that same story. But I have really noticed the level of shame that is accompanied with all of those things is just insurmountable for people. They don't know how to talk about it, and they don't know how to let it be okay. And, you know, when people come to my shows or they know me, my goal is to disarm and to say, you know what, I'm human just like you. You're human. You know, I'm in counseling because of things I've gone through. That's a very human thing. And we put people up on a pedestal and we compare ourselves and don't give ourselves enough of a break and enough grace and enough credit. And so my goal is always to really connect and to just say, hey, you know what, you're loved just like you are, no matter what you're going through, all your failures, you know, all of your successes, we're all the same. We're all, you know, loved by God and you're loved by me. So yeah, that's always my goal.
So with that being your goal, I'm trying to transition between what you're called to do and being a comedian and all these people in our amazing business that have just felt called to build a business at home, to nutritionally, you know, strengthen their families, but also to share that message of healthy living around the world. Right now, in this world we live in, one of the first things you have to do when you get with people is you have to kind of de-stress them. They're on pins and needles. I mean, they're tired of being in their house. They're tired of lockdowns. They're tired of not even seemingly being able to find the truth anywhere. How has your comedy kind of helped, or how could you message our people? What can they do to de-stress right now and just chill? I mean, I want them to get back to normal, but I also want them to de-stress first, or they're going to burst, you know?
Right. Well, you know, I say this, I give this message on podcasts and different things to moms a lot, but it applies to men, women, you know, alike. And that is, you really have to take care of yourselves first in some way, whatever that looks like for you. You know, I remember when my kids were little, it was, hey, I'm just going to Target for 3 hours, or I'm going to take a bubble bath for 3 hours and keep heating up my water. Please, nobody say my name. Whatever it is for you, I think you have to first really give yourself some attention. I think that I used to, which is so funny to even say, but I used to take myself so seriously, and everything had to be perfect. I required a lot of perfection out of myself, and I lived under a lot of personal legalism that I put on myself, never from the Lord. And I lived under that, and it was just excruciating. And I think having grace for the season that you're in personally, and being able to say, you know what, it's okay. I can't be all things to all people. If I need to be working right now and my kids are running around and, you know, wreaking havoc, so be it. I just think really letting ourselves be in the space we're in with no judgment to ourselves is imperative, because I have personally found that if I don't give myself attention, and for me personally right now, that's counseling. And if I don't do that for me, I can't get out there on the road and be of any use to anybody else. So whatever your thing is, you need to love on yourself in that way. And then I would also go even further to say, you know, when you're working with clients or you're, you know, dealing with people on the daily, man, I just find that, you know, the greatest commandment in the Bible really is the greatest commandment. And it's just loving people. I just feel like that is the heart of the Father. I just feel like that is, you know, does more good than any kind of necessary words of wisdom you could possibly give. So I think always trying to have that attitude of loving people where they are is important.
You know, I think about the faith you and I have in a big God, and I can't even imagine having faced what we've looked at the last 18 months without having that, you know, as the security of that grace being sufficient for all that we're going through. And also, you know, one of the things that burdens me is this emerging generation that really no longer has the Bible as the standard of truth. You know, you and I grew up probably in a season where, you know, there were fewer translations, but it was just like there was a truth you could stand on. And now it seems like everybody creates their own truth. And, you know, since I'm not a comedian, I love for you to help make me laugh. And there's you know, I mean, those that try to be humorous, you know, you got to talk, you got to give, and you hunt for a joke to tell. I mean, you can tell when people are doing that. It's like, okay, I'm going to be serious. Oh, I want to insert a funny, and it just doesn't work. And your whole flow there. How does comedy, we've talked a little bit about this, but a direct question, how does comedy and faith, which you think of comedy as like slapstick or whatever, and you think of faith as this serious, life-altering, important thing in your life, how does the cross of those two things resonate with people?
That's a great question. I mean, I think as far as it resonating with people, it seems to be accepted, you know, and I think I really try not to have a heavy hand with it. Like I said, I really do try to just love people and let that be my witness, you know, but my foundation in faith has been just that. I mean, it's been my foundation when things got rocky, and it does keep me grounded. Now it's changed over the, you know, it ebbs and flows as far as, you know, sometimes questions pop up, and sometimes I look at things, the older I get, I look at things a little differently than I did when I was younger. And I have, what is that old saying? Like, the more you know, the less you understand. That's kind of how I feel in a lot of ways, but I always hang on to what I believe to be the character of God. And I let that be foundation for me. As far as bringing that into my comedy, you know, I do make jokes about church. I mean, you know, I ask people to raise your hand if you're raising teenagers. And then I say, keep your hands raised. We've got a prayer team that's going to come around and lay hands on you. You know, nobody bats an eye at that. I bring my spiritual side into my comedy without ever trying to beat anybody up. I'm never here to try to do that, but I am able to bring it in because it's part of my life, and my life is my comedy. I mean, I get paid to self-deprecate, and so I'm able to stand up there and talk about church and talk about, you know, where I've come from, because it's real life. And I think whether you're churched or whether you're not, as far as comedy goes, people want to know the real you. And even as far as anything goes, it doesn't have to be comedy. Juice Plus, I mean, the people you're dealing with, they just want to see something real. Our world is so full of nonsense and Photoshop and, you know, fake things and this persona that there's perfection out there, and the better you look, the, you know, better you are. And it's just all BS. I just, you know, I just think being authentic as much as possible. I'm not saying you have to share every detail of your story. Some things are private, but being authentic, yeah, that's kind of my charge to you guys. Stay in that space, be real, and love people from that authenticity.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that appreciate you being transparent and me being transparent with them. But can you just share for I don't have no idea, but there's some people on this there, who knows who's going to watch us, you know, it might be one person, it might be 10,000 people, but can you share something for those that like have like this zero understanding of God in their life? I mean, I know you've had a journey of maybe even as a child. Like, I mean, I was brought up in the church. So my first encounter with God was young, but what does it look like for God to be a part of your life? I mean, how did that happen for you?
You know, I cut my teeth on the pews, as we say in the South. I don't ever remember not being in church. I don't ever remember not being saved. I don't recall it. It was just the way I was brought up, and my heart, I guess because my personality maybe was very open and tender toward that. You know, since I've gotten older, like I said, it has adjusted a little bit, but the one thing remains, and that is my belief in God, because, you know, whether or not I was raised in church, I think that this answer would still stay. I've had experiences that have made me believe. You know, there have been moments in my journey, if I'm being totally transparent, that things that I was taught, I don't believe anymore. I'm finally questioning some things, and I'm going, I don't think that's true. I think that's just what I was told. And that's fair. We're all raised like that. But in spite of all that, I have had experiences in my heart and in the flesh. I haven't seen God in the flesh, but I have had real experiences. Most of them came during my divorce, where no one could ever convince me God is not real. I will never be convinced otherwise. And I think that anybody questioning out there, like, you know, I just don't know. I just don't know if I believe in God. I think I would say, you know, take a risk on asking God, give me an experience, give me something where I can sink my teeth into, and that I can stand on. And, you know, I need a stake to drive in the ground. Show me what that is. And I just firmly believe that in the goodness of God, He will do that in His time for each one of us. That has been what has kept me grounded, is my firm belief in knowing He's there because of what I've gone through.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything greater than that spiritual marker in your life. We all have them. If we will let go and let God, that, to use that phrase, I think He creates those spiritual markers in our life that, you know, when you're worried about something and He shows up, you learn a lesson that worrying's not worth it. I mean, you know, and that's one of my favorite verses in Matthew is just don't worry, don't be anxious. And I think right now, just believing that and knowing that for all of you are having crisis. I know in the moment it's hard to say that and believe that, but God is bigger than those things. And walking through those places, like Heather talked about her divorce. Lori, we had infertility problems. I mean, my parents got divorced, went bankrupt, you know, all those things. You can see that there was something steady in the midst of the crisis going on around you. And I, you know, go ahead, Heather.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I know. I'm just like dying to jump in. Don't you find it interesting that so many times we meet God in the middle of the crap? You know, I mean, I've known the Lord my whole life, but when I went through a divorce, I mean, there were months that I had my lights turned off. You know, like I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and I, you know, never knew where my, you know, if I was going to get the next paycheck sometimes, because, you know, I had to, my kids got sick, I had to go pick them up from school. Am I going to make enough money, you know, next week? But for me, it's been in those moments where I've actually had the most peace, because I had to let go, like you said, and I had to give over control. And that is really hard for some of us, but it is so freeing. Don't you find?
It is. And to kind of bring us to a close here, one of the things that I think is amazing, and I did write a book, and I'm not about selling books, but in that book, I talk about Kairos moments. Do you know what Kairos means?
I've heard that word my whole life, but since you put me on the spot, I don't know if I can define it for you.
So Kairos, there's Chronos and Kairos, two words for time in the Bible. And Kairos is the unusual one. Chronos is just like breakfast, lunch, dinner, tomorrow, sleep, just regular work week, just normal time. And then Kairos is that seize the moment. Like when Jesus started his ministry, that time, now is the time. That was a Kairos moment. It broke the normal timeline, and it was something unusual. And this is the first time in my lifetime of over 50 years. And I think probably everybody living today, that because of this crazy world we're living in, God probably has created a Kairos moment for everybody has an opportunity to reset right now. I mean, you got a legitimate, the world stood still for 18 months. And what are you going to do? Are you going to stay in your pajamas? Are you going to come out? And I think there's some God lessons that we all need to take out of this. And as we move forward, do you want to put your foot on a solid rock, or do you want to just creep out there and put it on sand and try and figure out what the world's going to do? And I think God's speaking to a lot of people right now that he's been the rock throughout this thing, and that he's bigger than all these problems. And as we've all kind of paused and maybe worried about a loved one dying from this crazy disease or pandemic, or losing a job, or whatever the lockdowns and this craziness has done to you, I think everybody has had a Kairos moment that they wouldn't have normally had the world just kept going. So when we have those pauses, I think God gives us a chance to reflect, and there's a lot of lessons to learn. So, as Heather shared and just brought some funny and shared her story and been transparent with you, God's been a major part of my life, and having him as that rock solid place to put your foot on is important. So I just want each of you to know that whether it's reaching out to Heather and getting some more of her food on YouTube, I mean, she's hysterical. You think she was funny this morning? Just wait till she's got her filter on. You got to watch her on YouTube. I mean,
I really wasn't funny this morning. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay. I mean, but you were real, and we talked about how comedy.
That's important.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, dig more into her YouTube channel. Get with me. Get with the person you're sitting with, because God has been such an amazing part of all of our lives. And Heather and I've been down different paths, but that's been the rock in our life. And so we just love for you to have that relationship with God that we have. And we just appreciate you joining us this morning. And
thank
Heather,
you.
You got any closing remarks for everybody?
Gosh, that is always such a tricky thing.
I didn't prepare you for that question.
No, I'm completely unprepared. All the things I think that I said, those are all my closing remarks. I just hope everybody's encouraged today to, not feel pressure about who you are or where you're at, but just to really, kind of like we said earlier, if I'm being honest, I hate that phrase, let go and let God. But it really is true, because the more I do it, the more at peace I am. So just peace and love. And that sounds really woo-woo, but all of those beautiful things sent your way, everybody.
Let go and let God does sound extreme, but it really is just our ability to surrender and let him be in charge.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But let's close out in prayer, and just Heather, thanks for being with us. And she's got lots of content on YouTube. All the questions I ask her about her journeys and stuff, she when she puts that mask on, I mean, she cracks me up. I mean, absolutely. If you need a little bit of humor, what's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just Heatherland. I ain't doing it.
Heatherland. I ain't doing it. So if you think of something you don't want to do, go see if Heather's got an excuse for you not to do it. Okay?
Probably do.
So let's position ourselves like we just heard, to pray, to receive, to remember we don't have to hold this whole thing together. We can even fall apart. He holds it all together. In my longing, in my waiting, will your presence be known? When I'm fearful, when I'm doubting, will first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. In my grieving, in my sorrow, will your goodness steady me? When I'm blinded, when I'm hopeless, will I have the eyes to see? You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. Together, together. Together, together. You're the one who holds all things together. So if you ever feel like you're just trying to keep your act together, just remember, you don't need to act. He's got you. He's holding you. When I'm serving, when I'm hidden, will I trust the Father sees? When you call me, will I listen? Will I follow where you lead? I will follow where you lead. Yes, Lord, we will follow you wherever you lead us. You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. You're the first, you're the last, you're forever. You're the one who brings spring out of winter. You're the promise and you are the keeper. You're the one who holds all things together. You hold all things together. You hold the moon and stars, the world and all its framing. How great is your goodness stored up for us. Together, together, you're the one who holds all things together. Together, together, you're the one who holds all things together.
Wow, Aaron, that was amazing. All things together. Isn't that what the world needs? Just to keep all things together and to know that God is in charge when we wake up every day. And for those of us that have a relationship with him and that just know that his grace through Jesus dying on the cross is what gives us access to the throne today and for eternity. And Heather, you were just amazing. It's so comforting to hear transparency, and that, you know, how God just used a gift he put in you to totally change the direction of your life. And I think he does that with all of us a lot of time. We realize, I call it Kairos moments, you know, when something breaks the normal timeline and we get to choose to go in a direction that God's trying to show us and take us in. And probably in my lifetime, we've never seen a time like we are today. And that is where the world, through this pandemic and crazy virus and lockdowns, we all kind of have an opportunity to do a reset spiritually, and just acknowledge where God stands in our life, and a reset financially, nutritionally, with our family. Just a great time to do that reset. So I'm super excited about us being together in about a day. Hopefully this is our last virtual prayer breakfast, and I'm going to get to see a bunch of you guys in St. Louis. Safe travels, whether you're coming to St. Louis or going somewhere to be with your team. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait to see you. And again, thanks, Aaron and Heather, for just doing amazing things. You can find Aaron at Mirror Worship, and you can find Heather at heatherlandofficial.com. But if you just type in Heatherland on YouTube, you can get you some popcorn and have a belly buster, because she is hilarious. Be good. Let's pray. Lord, thanks for this time virtually together, but we know thousands are going to be, you know, with us in the moment or watching this later recorded. And we just are grateful for those that are here with us right now. And we're also just excited about who's going to be impacted with your love and your message, and with worship from watching this later as it's recorded. So we love you. We thank you for all you do, Lord. And just we couldn't make it without you. Just so grateful for you, for what Jesus did on the cross. And we love you. Amen.